it.
Did you have any problems with looters?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But you did.
They're all dead.
What happened?
With a cup of red wine in one hand and riding a tractor from Blaine Kern's Mardi Gras world.
This is Paul, and in 2005, him, his neighbors, and his entire city were completely cut off from the rest of the world for 7 days.
There's no bridge there. Look carefully.
Right.
What you're seeing are simply the pilings.
That's 7 days with no food, 7 days with no hospitals or 911 to call, and 7 days without any police force.
Did you kill
The number of them.
How many did you kill roughly?
Also, the clip you just watched is only day 2.
I like when the rain is falling down. I love to hear the soothing sound.
Despite being given ample notice to evacuate, many people chose to stay in their homes, either because they thought it was just another hurricane season, or maybe they were like Paul and wanted to protect their homes in case something bad happened. At first, this hurricane wasn't very threatening, and only ranked 7th in terms of strength, so it came as a shock to most people when it became number 1 in terms of damages. This had less to do with the storm and more to do with the city of New Orleans, and the fact that it is under the ocean. The reason it is not in the ocean is literally because of a wall. This thing's usually pretty sturdy. Just don't want to push too hard. Oh,
even though I knew the levees were breached before that, seeing it, and just knowing that the fate of the city was sealed.
Hopes for any kind of a quick rescue operation were out the window, and even though the storm eventually settled, the floodwaters now acted as a barrier, separating New Orleans from the rest of the world. At this time, TVs around the world were flooded with images of people stranded on their roofs, with no protection in the hot sun, no clean clothes, no food, no drinking water, unless you like the taste of city street.
People are now living in parking garages.
And you couldn't swim to safety because, well, the water was more like if you made a soup out of the stuff in a doctor's office hazard container and then mix it with sewage.
There are also animals, snakes.
Why did it have to be a snake?
These people were obviously the priority, but even they were stuck in some cases for up to 3 days. And since that rescue effort alone was taking up all the resources at the city's disposal, everyone who was in the shelters or on the streets up to their knees in water were forced to fend for themselves. And things quickly got out of hand.
Something would happen and you'd see hundreds of people running at you. The police were doing nothing. We actually saw the police driving by in brand new Cadillacs with no tags. But there's one thing that was kind of funny though. One thing there was plenty of was alcohol and cigarettes. All you wanted.
By day 2, most people could safely assume their house was now underwater, so pretty much all the normal laws that govern society began to evaporate, and everything became tribal. Stores are now more like supply caches, and I wouldn't say the looting was rampant, it just became something everybody did.
Well, are you doing it because you need it, or you?
Yeah,
Like in this clip here, this news anchor finds either police officers or security guards looting a Walmart.
A lot of the people here say they don't feel bad taking this stuff. One, because they need it. But two, they said the police said it was okay. And we actually saw the police. They're in aisle 3.
How you doing?
Hi. They don't quite look your color.
Most people kept to getting their supplies from big convenience stores like Target and Walmart, but as you can imagine, some took it too far and started going into small businesses and even trying to get into people's homes. This scared some people, especially the ones in Algiers Point. You see, Algiers Point wasn't affected by the flooding, so many people went there to stay dry. But with all this looting stuff going around on TV, they weren't too welcoming. Numerous local militias started to form. All of them say they wanted to just protect their homes. But from the information that is surfaced, it just looks like they were having maybe a little too much fun protecting their homes.
It was great. It was like pheasant season in South Dakota. I'd be walking down the streets of New Orleans with 238s in my pocket and a shotgun over my shoulder.
This is an interview with Paul's neighbor during the power outage, and you can see before she even knew anyone had lost their life, she already seems very shaken up about him and his friends.
So we asked her, could her neighbor, Paul Gleason, kill?
If he was drunk, yeah, because that made him feel like, God, I hate to say that, but yeah, I think so. That's just me personally.
No, there's no need to feel bad. He admitted to it.
How many people you shoot?
38.
38 people.
They chose to die. They chose to commit suicide.
You mean to tell me there were 38 people that were looting that you found? Not even one. Not even one of them wasn't. I feel like there should be a law against having a drink and a gun in your hand at the same time. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty reason to be cautious at this time. The violence got really, really bad there. Like in the case of this guy who was simply trying to stop a carjacking. But sadly, there were multiple cases in which the militias and police pew-pewed some innocent civilian. Now, something that surely didn't help the situation was when the police chief made an order to shoot anyone who looted anything from anywhere.
It was clear, he specifically said for us to shoot looters.
You know, that was just an opportunity for them to do just what they did.
Obviously, some officers were not chill with this.
Shocked us to the fact that such an order would come down, from him, or anyone in command.
Harrington says he was not looting or causing any problems.
Nowadays, the chief regrets doing this, but it just goes to show how unpreparedness naturally leads to people acting irrationally. And that goes for anyone. The police chief, Paul in Algiers Point, and even our own government.
Good evening.
Yeah, apparently these guys came up with the genius idea of locking a bunch of people in a stadium for 5 days with minimal food and water.
And not having, drinking water and all that other stuff was just kind of like real bad. I watched a lot of people suffer.
This is Shelton. He successfully evacuated before the storm. But from the way he tells it, it seems the conditions in these shelters were even worse than the ones on the street. Shelton ended up at the Superdome, which is now the most notorious of the bunch. The Superdome was the biggest of the shelters, but they had multiple for a reason. This was supposed to be the last resort for people who couldn't find anywhere else to go. And it only had 3 days worth of supplies for a maximum of 15,000 people. However, that number was quickly surpassed. They say it got to around 20,000 at one point. Shelton was one of the 20 lucky people to find a way out by the 3rd day. The rest were locked in there by the military for 5 days.
It's easy to see how families were separated, how there were reportedly rapes and sheer anarchy. The field itself looks like a battlefield.
Earlier I said that I wouldn't necessarily consider this safer than outside, and that's because it almost became outside.
All of a sudden I just hear some kind of like loud sound like boom. Then the rumbling just get like boom. You can see the water starting to slowly seep in. And then the hole got bigger.
The water damage is just the start. From here on out, life under the dome is kind of like under the dome. And it's dark all the time. And bad things always tend to happen in the dark. Day 2 was more like day poo. Because across all the first-hand accounts I've watched, one of the honorable mentions is always the smell.
Is absolutely overpowering.
The smell was really horrific. You're talking like after the first day.
Because the toilets backed up after 24 hours, leaving people in there with nowhere to go. Besides the floor, of course. Toilets weren't the only problem. People started panicking after being made aware that they weren't allowed to leave.
You're a prisoner now. Now you locked in. Like, what you mean I can't leave? This not a war, and why am I stuck here?
As the days went on, things got worse and more unorganized. However, this does make it easier for people to sneak out if they want to. Sneak out to where? Well, this is the reality a lot of people were forced to face. After walking out of the stadium, each person is greeted by a water line and a realization that there's no road home. Even though eventually they were able to fix the wall and drain the water from the streets, they weren't ever able to fix the scar this left on both the city and the victims. I find the Katrina aftermath to be a rare glimpse into what humanity looks like in an end-of-days scenario, when getting along is no longer an option, and wants are replaced by needs and fears. Now, it might make you start to think people are just selfish, hungry animals, but I don't agree. Let me redirect you to this YouTube channel. It's called People Are Awesome, and maybe after watching it, you will start to think so as well.